The Acolyte. It is the show that is not at all divisive and that everybody unanimously loved, right? No, not at all. So, The Acolyte is, of course, the latest Disney Star Wars show that apparently not a ton of people watched, but pretty much everybody was talking about. And that's kind of a problem because now Deadline is officially reporting that, well, let me scroll back up, that it is officially canceled. The Acolyte canceled no season 2 for Disney Plus's Star Wars series. The story of The Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with a second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amandla Stenberg, sources tell Deadline. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8-episode first season from creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner Leslie Headland wrapped its run at Disney+. The news is not entirely surprising. The Acolyte did okay with critics, 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, but divided Star Wars fans, which was reflected in its overall viewership. Driven by interest into the venerable franchise, The Acolyte got off to a strong start when it launched June 4th with 2 episodes generating 4.8 million views in its first day on the streamer to rank as the biggest series premiere on Disney Plus this year. The tally rose to 11.11 million views globally after 5 days of streaming. Corroborating Disney's data, the series made its debut on Nielsen's Top 10 Originals chart in its premiere week at number 7. 488 million minutes viewed, climbing to number 6 the following week. Bro, I'm going to be honest. I've still yet to, really wrap my head around streaming data and analyzing it. Like, whenever somebody's like, this show is viewed for 500 million minutes. I always receive that news and I'm like, I have no idea if that's good or bad. It's not like the box office where it's like, oh, the movie opened to $100 million and the budget of the movie was $150 million. That's a strong start, undoubtedly. But when it comes to viewership, and then when you try to analyze the budget of the show versus the viewership, and is that really at the end of the day good or bad, especially when you take into account that the way that these streaming services even handle whether or not something is worth investing in, it's also really convoluted, where Netflix is Netflix doesn't even care if you watch the show. The only thing that Netflix cares about is whether or not the show caused people to sign up for Netflix. That's why they cancel a lot of their shows early. It's because a season 3 of a show might get high viewership, but if it was from people that were already signed up for Netflix, well, that's not valuable to them, so they cancel it. But so yeah, I always have to just let outlets tell me, it's this show got really high viewership, and I'm like, sure. But as the article is going to continue and let us know that, well, the viewership did not remain as high. But the Acolyte could not sustain the momentum, dropping out of the top 10 in week 3 and staying off before returning after the release of the finale at number 10. 335 million minutes, believed to be the lowest for a Star Wars series finale. Like fellow global streamers, Netflix and Prime Video, Disney Plus has a high viewership threshold for renewing high-end, big-budget series that cost well above $100 million per season to make. Now, this is actually an interesting paragraph here, because I might honestly, my analysis here might be a little outdated, because I remember it definitely used to be the case that Netflix didn't care about viewership when it came to renewing seasons of their shows. But I think one thing that might actually be changing that, and I'm just assuming, I haven't read this anywhere, might be due to the rise of the subscription, or not the subscription, the ad-based tiers that these subscription services are pushing. Because, and again, we're just reverting back to cable, to be clear. But remember, it used to be that if you get super high viewership, well, guess what? Those viewers are going to be watching commercials. And those commercials pay for the TV show. That just makes sense. Now we are kind of reverting back to that. And I wonder if nowadays, if your show gets high viewership, well, a lot of those viewers are going to be on ad-based subscription, on the ad-based plans. And that is going to generate revenue. So I wonder if that's also kind of where we're heading in terms of all this. But anyways, we'll continue. In interviews, Headland has revealed that she has pitched her ideas for a second season and has shared her hopes for a renewal. Well, yeah, I mean, they definitely teased the second season with like what was that guy? Darth Plagueis or something. He was like crawling out of the cave. He was like, "Yes, I am an evil Sith Lord. I have evil plans for the second season of the Acolyte." Well, we're not gonna find out what those plans are, I guess. Lucasfilm's first and most successful to date Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, is carrying on, crossing over to features with the upcoming The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's actually a really interesting line there, because one of the big questions that we've had is whether or not The Mandalorian was going to continue as a series, since we're getting The Mandalorian and Grogu. This might be weird wording on the part of Deadline, but they're saying that The Mandalorian is carrying on, crossing over to features with the upcoming The Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't know. I feel like there are two ways that you can read that. You can read that as the show is carrying on, or you could read that as the characters, like The Mandalorian, is carrying on into movies. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like we need to get more direct, I feel like we need to get a more direct statement on that. But, anyways, then it says, the company's series that preceded the Acolyte, Ahsoka, has been renewed for a second season. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. In addition to Stenberg, the cast includes... Okay, we don't need to finish reading all this. Okay. So, here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, whether you liked the Acolyte or you did not like the Acolyte, I mean, those numbers speak for themselves. If they got to the end of the season and the show, it was the lowest viewership on a Star Wars season finale, I mean, that just kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? It makes sense that they cancel it. And honestly, like, the discourse surrounding the show, again, whether you liked it or you disliked it, that's just not what you need. That's not what Lucasfilm needs from Star Wars. Like, they need a more united fan base that just likes what they're putting out, you know? Because if somebody who's not into Star Wars, or someone who's like apathetic to Star Wars, right, the people that Lucasfilm is trying to get back into the fold, I'm sure that they watched the discourse surrounding the Acolyte and they were like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, quite frankly. And you know, as far as my thoughts on the series was, I don't think it's like nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Like, I don't know, like anybody that says the phrase lesbian space witches, I probably think that their criticisms of it are really stupid. But it's also not nearly as good as the other, you know, side of the coin believes it to be, where they think it's like this amazing, super compelling series. Like, basically, I don't think it's nearly as bad as the Book of Boba Fett. It's also nowhere near as good as Andor. I thought the series was like whatever, and that's bad because yeah, like I feel like that even people like me that don't necessarily hate the series, I feel like most of us are just kind of like, yeah, it was fine. And that's not what you want. That just isn't what you want. And I think the viewership uh, leads to that. The main thing that I always say when it comes to this stuff is don't like Lucasfilm should not be worried or they shouldn't be trying to like appease any of the extremes, right? Like, to get into the political angle of things, like the problem with the Acolyte isn't that it's woke. It's not that it has a female lead. It's not that it's diverse. It's that it just wasn't particularly well written. It's that the visual effects weren't strong. It's that at the end of the day, we just didn't really care about any of the characters. That's the problem with the Acolyte. Don't get like the reaction to this shouldn't be to like overcorrect necessarily, and like because like even if you want to bring up like the whole DEI thing, the like the answer to this isn't like reverse DEI where it's like we need all white people in the next thing. It's like just you need to just bring on a talented creative and just let them cook, right? Like we were talking about James Gunn in one of my last videos where he brought up this revolutionary idea of, hey, we're not gonna go into production on a DCU movie before the script is done. Which is something that Marvel for sure is doing. Like that's how they operate. I'm actually not sure if Lucasfilm necessarily operates that way, but kind of feels that way, to be honest. A lot of their products feel like a lot of recent Marvel products. And like, write your scripts, do your pre-production, and make sure everything is in order. Because I think the other big problem with Lucasfilm is that it just doesn't feel like Kathleen Kennedy is the person for the job. Like she just doesn't seem to be the person that is able to read a script and be like, hey, this is what Star Wars needs right now. Or this is just good or bad. like they need somebody in there that understands Star Wars, that understands the fan base, that understands what they want, and that is able to like read a script and be like, hey, this is great, and this is going to serve what the fan base needs. Because like the other thing with like the Skeleton Crew that's about to come out is I actually think it looks really good. Like it looks like Goonies in Star Wars, which I think looks super cool. But like even if that show comes out and it's amazing, is that really what Star Wars needs right now? Like, is that going to be a thing? Is it even possible for that to be a thing where Star Wars fans look at it and they go like, yes, hell yeah, these kids went on an adventure, Star Wars is saved? Like, I don't know. Like, and to be fair, like that, if like in an alternate universe where Ahsoka was amazing, Mandalorian season 3 was amazing, or the Acolyte was amazing, and Star Wars was just like riding on a high, and then Skeleton Crew comes out, well, Skeleton Crew is just like a unique little thing that is just like a sprinkle on top of what should be a thriving franchise. But as it stands right now, the Skeleton Crew is coming into a world where Star Wars just is not thriving in the least. So that's the main thing, right? Like we can talk about what Star Wars needs to do, but I just at the end of the day, I just don't think that Kathleen Kennedy is the person to be the steward for that, and I think she's proven that. But I mean, hey, one thing that I will also say is that we've seen DC with James Gunn, we've seen Marvel with Kevin Feige openly talking about the missteps that both of those brands have taken. One of my main criticisms of Star Wars in the past few months has been that there's none of that. There is none of that open and earnest and honest dialogue coming from Kathleen Kennedy. Like it's kind of felt like they've just been like, everything's fine. That meme with the dog on fire in the house on fire. Everything's fine. That's what it's kind of felt like from Lucasfilm. Hey, they're not moving forward with the Acolyte season 2. That is in some way recognition that everything is not fine and that we need to stop, we need to regroup, and we need to try to figure this out. So we'll see. At the end of the day, I think that the discourse surrounding Star Wars is actual like retardation. I don't think that the answer is to stop being woke. I don't think the answer is to just be more woke. I think it's just to make better shows. That's really it. Make good shows. Make good movies. Make a movie. Get a movie into production. Have it be good. And I think that's really that's you're 90% of the way there just by doing that. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.